In 1998, a pair of Stanford students walked into a tech giant's office and offered to sell their search engine for $1 million. They were shown the door. 10 years later, that same giant received a buyout offer from Microsoft for $44.6 billion. They said no to that too. In the early 2000s, Yahoo was the undisputed king of the internet. It was a $125 billion empire that controlled 90% of the web directory market. If you went online in the year 2000, you went through them. This leaves an obvious question. When a company has a virtual monopoly and effectively infinite cash, how does it systematically negotiate away hundreds of billions of dollars in value? The answer is that Yahoo did not suffer a sudden disruption from faster competitors. Over the course of a decade, the company's own leadership executed a slow, methodical dismantling of their own foundation. The root cause of this decline was a severe identity crisis. Yahoo could never decide if it was a software technology platform or a media portal focused on curating content. Because they leaned heavily toward media, they treated internet search as a human indexing task. While their rivals wrote software to automatically crawl the web, Yahoo relied on human editors to manually categorize links into folders. This philosophy prioritized keeping users on Yahoo's properties to view banner ads. Building an efficient search algorithm that quickly directed people away from their site ran directly against their business model. Instead of building their own technology, they took a shortcut. For 4 years, Yahoo paid that same startup they had previously rejected, Google, to provide the search results in the background of the Yahoo portal. By outsourcing their core utility, Yahoo essentially paid to train tens of millions of its own users. They taught an entire generation that a good internet search meant a Google search. This miscalculation of technology companies accelerated when Terry Semel took over as CEO in 2001. Coming from a career as a Hollywood executive, Semel viewed the internet through the lens of traditional media production, skewing his grasp of tech valuations. This chart shows the margin of error on the most important deal in tech history. In 2002, Semel tried to buy Google. He offered $3 billion. Google's founders held out for $5 billion. Refusing to bridge that gap, Semel walked away. 4 years later, under the codename Fraternity Project, Semel attempted to buy Facebook. After Mark Zuckerberg indicated he would accept $1 billion, Semel unilaterally lowered Yahoo's formal bid to $850 million. Insulted by the lowball offer, Zuckerberg terminated the discussions and never returned. While haggling over companies worth trillions, Yahoo eagerly overpaid for premature media properties. They spent $5.7 billion on the audio streaming platform Broadcast.com, which couldn't function on late 90s dial-up, and $3.6 billion on GeoCities, which they later shut down entirely. By funneling billions into outdated media models while trying to bargain hunt the future of technology, the company actively funded its own obsolescence. By 2008, the company's momentum had stalled completely, and co-founder Jerry Yang returned to the CEO role. Recognizing an opening, Microsoft launched an unsolicited bid to acquire Yahoo for $44.6 billion. The offer represented a 62% premium over Yahoo's trading price. But Yang and the board repeatedly rejected the bid, insisting that Microsoft was substantially undervaluing his life's work. To ensure Microsoft couldn't force a deal, Yang prepared a corporate poison pill defense. He signaled that if Microsoft attempted a hostile takeover, he would intentionally make the integration as difficult and destructive as possible. Microsoft withdrew their bid. Immediately, Yahoo's stock plummeted to nearly half the value Microsoft had offered, triggering intense outrage among shareholders and a high-profile proxy revolt led by activist investor Carl Icahn. Driven by an emotional attachment to their past success, Yahoo's leadership threw away a massive premium exit, choosing instead to manage a decline they could no longer control. Under CEO Marissa Mayer, the crisis evolved from strategic boardroom errors to deep operational rot. Management implemented a controversial stack ranking system known as QPR, which required managers to assign a certain percentage of their teams into low-performing tiers. This policy systematically eroded company morale and drove away top engineering talent. Beneath the toxic workplace dynamics, the core technology itself was failing. Without strong engineering leadership, critical infrastructure, specifically cybersecurity, was left chronically underfunded and outdated. The direct result of this neglect was catastrophic. Between 2013 and 2014, attackers breached Yahoo's servers, compromising a staggering 3 billion user accounts, essentially every single person who used their services. Years of high-level strategic indecision had finally worked their way down to the server racks, resulting in a total structural and operational collapse. Yahoo delayed disclosing the scale of the data breach for years. When the news finally broke, the company was in the middle of negotiating the sale of its core internet business to Verizon. The revelation gave Verizon massive leverage. They forced Yahoo back to the negotiating table and carved a $350 million penalty out of the final acquisition price. This chart illustrates the severity of the loss. The core internet operations of a company that was once valued at $125 billion were sold off for just $4.48 billion. The remaining assets were unceremoniously rebranded under names like Oath and Altaba, before eventually being quietly absorbed by private equity firms. The free market ultimately and ruthlessly prices in a company's failure to secure its foundation and adapt to changing realities. Having millions of users and endless capital provides no protection if a company lacks a definitive purpose and a clear vision for the future. Yahoo's legacy is defined by a deep irony. Through pride and indecision, it paid to train the exact competitors that would eventually render it obsolete. In the end, Yahoo was the architect of its own demise, executing the most expensive string of strategic failures in the history of technology.